very brief introduction to Touchstone Spend Management. We implement and support spend management solutions and projects. We've been doing so for a very, very long time across the UK and Nordics. The solution we work with primarily is called Ivalua. So I've got with me Zeeshan. He's been our lead on well over 20 projects now, I think 25 projects in Ivalua, probably close to 100, including all applications. So reason for us, the reason we exist as a business, pretty simple actually. I will share my screen. I'm just going to share a couple of slides. So, spend management projects, by and large, do not realise the expected return on investment or the value that people expect to achieve out of them. Lots of different reasons for this, lots of different nuances behind the reasons, but normally they fall into three pretty distinct buckets. So number one, we've got agility here. So this is a system. Quite a lot of applications don't have the ability to adapt to different scenarios, different situations. So what you end up with is a load of process that goes on outside of the system. And if you want to build out, or you want to improve, or you want to add additional things, you either need to buy additional technology solutions or look to configure bespoke applications in-house. Next reason, data and integration. So we talk a lot in our marketplace, there's a lot of applications that are called suites or platforms. In reality, there are a series of modules that are stitched together and are nothing of the sort. So none of the data talks to each other. There's silos right the way across the application, leads to savings leakage, leads to process leakage, leads to inefficiencies. And the final one is adoption. So if you have a configurable platform that is joined up and can adapt to your business requirements, what quite often happens is that gets over-engineered and every conceivable edge case is incorporated into a design session, and that leads to projects being delayed and value not being realized for a long, long time. And we know, well, I think we all know how fast technology is moving on these days. If you spend 12 to 18 months on a project, very quickly what you've built is going to be out of date. So that's where I think Zeeshan and his team do a very effective job in using that configurable platform that is Ivalua and making sure that it's fit for the requirements and suits the requirements of our client organizations. So as we get into the demo, I'd just like to ask everyone to tune into some of the use cases that you might have in your organization. Have a look at what Zeeshan's presenting and think, how can my use cases be met by this application? Please feel free to ask us questions at the end or throughout as well. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Zeeshan. We're going to have a look at what I've just been talking about.
Thank you, Charlie. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see my screen now. So just a bit of overview before I get into the actual product. Ivalua is a born in cloud SaaS product. So as long as you can connect through an internet, you should be able to use our portal. It's a single tenant environment, meaning that you have your own environment. It's not unlike other competitors out there who have got a shared environment across all customers. You have your own. And in terms of connecting, it's all secured through single sign-on and two-factor authentication to log in. When you log into Ivalua as a platform, and by the way, we're going to be going through full source to pay, so we'll be touching a lot of the modules today. So just bear with me on some of those modules. Ivalua is a full source to pay solution, so it can scan from supply management to sourcing, contract management, P2P requisitioning, invoicing, all the way to payment, including direct and indirect. Yeah, but today we're only going to focus on indirect and go through that with you. When somebody logs in, they land onto their home page or a landing page, Ivalua calls it. You can see there are different KPIs relevant to me, what I need to do. So any task I need to complete, anything I should be aware of in terms of risk and performance of a supply. So currently I'm logged in as somebody who normally creates new suppliers or looks at risk against that supply and managing them. Okay. And we also have a repository of supplies. So day one, we load up your supplies. You would have those in your, in your ERP system or some other legacy system. We load them up, and then you onboard them in our system. So to sort of collect all of the information. So from the browse, you can see, you can see the risk level, the performance level, ESG, how much we spent so far against that supply. All of those KPIs are readily available on the actual um, browse grid. Why this is important? Because Ivalua is one system, so you can see that all the way through. If somebody actually wants to look at a supply and what's the position of that supply in terms of the risk and performance, they can see that from sourcing. If they're doing a contracting or requisitioning, they can see it from there as well, because it's one system. If I look at a supply, if I search in the top search bar, which is like a Google type of search, you could search here as well. There are different other criteria, but this will search through the whole system based on what my access is. So if I search for a supply, you can see it comes back with saying, okay, by the way, I can see there's a supply called Dell. There's a few contracts, invoices, and orders, and some price list against that supply, all in one system. And that's why it's Ivalua is so powerful, because we have what we call is a supply golden record. A golden record is effectively gives you a 360 overview of the supply record in terms of how much we've spent. Are they up to date with their onboarding? Are there any sourcing? So all of these key objects can be looked at from just right from the supply record. Okay. You can maintain some metadata against the supply. You can maintain documentation, key certifications. The system automatically alerts when the documentation is nearing expiring or expired. You get all those alerts based on the validity and approval. You can also qualify your suppliers in our system, meaning are they qualified to provide hardware, software, whatever your categories are. Why this is important? Because when somebody comes to do the requisitioning in the downstream process, they are aware which suppliers are qualified for what. So people are not randomly just buying stuff. I covered risk center very quickly. We can link into third-party risk providers. Even at the moment, you can see that a different risk coming from ESG platform to just a questionnaire. This one ESG platform from EcoVadis is pulling data. So all of that can be pulled from external system as well as internal data as well. So this is externally we can connect. Um, you can also maintain a sub tier against the supply record, meaning that you may have a contractor, subcontractor network, because it's important you know what the risk is against those subcontractors they're going to be using. Uh, and then lastly, when you're onboarding a supply, you go through a workflow in our system. Okay, so somebody submits a request to actually be a supplier in the system. You do the enrollment prep. We do some checks, in terms of key documentations been provided by the supplier or not. Are there any bank details needs to be approved by AP? And then only then the supplier's enrollment is completed, and then you activate the supply after doing any risk assessment or due diligence if needed. Okay, so that's the sort of supply management side of thing. When you're managing the supply, you can send messages to your suppliers, or you can send internal messages. So all of that communication is done. If there are any alerts, you see them in the alert pan. You get an email as well. So all of that is not just risk assessing or at the time of onboarding a supply, but also ongoing monitoring of the supply is done as well. If we move to sourcing, so this is where you can actually start doing all of your RFP, RFQ processes, strategic sourcing. Ivalua covers all of the different scenarios. I'm logged in at the moment as a sourcing manager. You can see my homepage is slightly different to what you've seen before, where all I'm concerned is any sourcing or auctions running. I need to look at that. If I go into the sourcing browse, these are some of the sourcing events I'm running at the moment. So because it's limited to my scope, if I just take this off, it'll show me all the sourcing events that are running in the system that I've got access to, and where are the different statuses. Are there any pending tasks? What's the progression? What's the status of the sourcing event? How many lots or rounds we're running in there? So you can see there's only one lot and only one round right now in this particular sourcing event. If we look at a particular sourcing event, so this is an example of a PPE equipment sourcing event that we're running. You can see that you can set up the sourcing event. You can also do requirement gathering, internal requirement gathering, before you go out to actual RFP. This is where you have uh, sort of the strategic sourcing, where you need to actually get all of the requirements from the internal stakeholder. They come up with the answers. You review those answers, and then you compare those answers they come back with. So you can see answers coming back on a short questionnaire that we send to all the stakeholders that need PPE equipment on site. And then you can right click and export it into Excel as well, and compare in Excel if needed. But once you've done all the requirement gathering, then you can go and then set up a team who's going to be actually managing this project. So I can have different individuals who are on this team. Some are SMEs, some are responsible for this, some are just a contributor. Okay. Once I've assembled the team, I can then start assigning them tasks. So I can say, okay, who needs to set up the project? Who needs to gather requirements? Who needs to select suppliers? Who needs to prepare RFX? I can add more tasks as well. But these are set up based on the template I've selected, and based on the template, it's actually created that. Now, talking about the template, Ivalua support different types of sourcing event. You can see call for tender, double envelope, triple envelope. It can be very simple as spot bid. This particular one is strategic that we're running. Okay. Once you assemble the team and created all the schedules, by the way, all of these steps are optional. If you wanted to, you can go straight into prepare an RFX if you want to. Okay. But I'm just going through a few examples. Uh, Supplies, you can see that we've selected supply already, and that browse thing is actually all the way through the platform. You can see all of these risk scores. You can drill into the supply record from here. You can look at who's actually managing it from a supplier end. You can see I've actually selected that main contact. You can add more supplies to your sourcing event. Simply go into search, find your supply, who's actually on the panel, meaning who's preferred, who's approved. It's very easy for you to select then the suppliers. If you wanted to invite a new supplier who's not in your database, you can just create a supply from this link, or you can search into external third parties to actually find a supplier. Then you want to engage with a new supplier. Or you can also use our Gen AI capabilities to actually go and suggest you supply based on past events that you've run, as well as go out, outside our system to actually find a new supplier as well. So it's like a supply discovery you can do using AI. You can also attach any documentation that you're going to be engaging on different lots or rounds. And you can also give them access to the early contracts visibility, meaning that they can see what contracting they're going to be getting into if they are selected. But if you don't want to do any of these, you can simply go into RFX if you needed to and just create a quotation request. So here I've only got one round and one lot, which is already closed, which I can reopen if I need to. I can also see there are different options I can select. So for example, I could say, supplier must sign an NDA on this particular round, okay? Or they need to require suppliers to respond to an RFX, okay? So all of these options are selectable. You can also define the grid, which columns are visible to the supply, which are not. Like for example, there are some columns that reference in the target price, which we're gonna use to actually see how much saving we're gonna make, but these are not visible to the supply, which you're gonna see. I can also add any documentation that I want on this particular round or a lot. And I can also select the supplies that I want to engage on this lot or round at this stage. I can also have a workflow, meaning that once I've prepared the RFX, I can send it off to somebody to actually review this RFX. And once they've approved it, only then I actually send it to the suppliers to actually open up. That two-step process can be there. Once you've submitted it, you can then look at the activity. So if I look at an activity against the RFP round, you can see Have they acknowledged? Have they provided NDA or not? Have they provided a quotation? Did they log in? Did they receive an email? You could, unauthorized block a supply in midway if you want to. They provided a proposal. You can click on it. It will show you the proposal. You can go into the detail of that proposal as well. Once an RFP is closed, or you can choose to close it automatically as well. You can then go and look at the analyze and award section where you can actually run different scenarios. So you can actually download the proposal, you can compare them side by side, and then you can shortlist the one that you want to, or you award. You can block them, meaning that they are not been awarded, or you just shortlist them and take them to the next round, and you can easily create the next round. Or you can run some scenarios. So in this stage, it's telling me if you go with this scenario, which is best price on each line, then you're probably best off awarding it to supply. If it's overall, you're best off doing it to this supply. So it suggests, and based on that, I've selected that, although I haven't made any savings. You can see I'm in red, but nevertheless, this is the best I could do with the supplies that I had sent the RFP maybe, and you can see it tells you how much saving or no savings I've made based on the target and that price. At the end of it, I can also then award a contract to the shortlisted to the awarded supply. So you can see that this supply was selected. I've created a contract. So it's because it's one system, it will automatically create the contract based on the data that we had on the RFP, like the prices and everything. It can create that, and I can also then notify the ones that have not been selected, and then an email will be sent out to them to say they have not been selected. Any communication with supplier or multiple supplier, you can use the messages options there. You can draft a message, send it to them, broadcast it to them, clarification. So all of that can be done within the system. And we can print a summary report if you want to send it to somebody of what has happened on this sourcing event. Okay, so that kind of covers the sourcing. I'll quickly go into the contracting. You can see the contract user homepage. As a manager, is focused on contract homepage. What's pending, what are the contract under negotiation, and all that on, and so forth and so forth. If I look at my contract, this will only cover the contracts that I'm only managing in the system that I've got visibility maybe. And you can see there are a few KPIs. I can easily go into my homepage and see whether there are contracts under negotiation or coming to an expiry within the 90 days. I can easily click on it and it will take me to that contract record. Similar to supplier or sourcing browse, if I go into the contract browse, at first I can see all the contracts that I'm managing. I can also look at any other contracts that I have access to. Okay, but at first you just look at the contract that you are managing. Okay, if I look for a particular contract, Dell master agreement maybe, you can see it starts searching and it gives you suggestion. So this is a contract. I can go into that. It's a signed contract, renewal pending, how much I've consumed. This is the value of the contract, last evaluation or risk assessment against that, any spend activity against that, any invoices against that contract. All of that is maintained. Metadata is maintained in terms of start date, end date, renegotiation date, type of renegotiation. All of that is maintained so that iValue can actually send you alerts on times. A hierarchy of contract can be maintained. Any key negotiated terms can be maintained. Any price list which may have come from sourcing, or you could maintain it here as well. Any documentation, meaning legal documents, actual contract that you've signed. You can also send documents off to e-signature. In this case, DocuSign, but you can have Adobe Sign as well. There's others that we support as well. And once that is done, that is in place, we can also do an intake of a contract, which we can always look at it later on in any of the subsequent sessions. But we can use AI to actually read the contract, summarize the contract, fill in this information automatically for you using the CDC module. If you're interested in that, let us get in touch with us and we can show you that as a separate session. Moving forward, once you have a contract in place, then you can go and raise requisition, orders, invoices, the downstream processes. I'm currently logged in as somebody who's a requisitioner who normally just put in requisitions. If I just refresh this page, since I've done some testing, you can see on my homepage, I've got a few requisitions I've raised. I can see the statuses of those requisitions. So for example, if I look at this, they've all been ordered, recent order. You can see any categories I have access to, any browsing history, any items that I've purchased in the past, and my shopping list, which I can call upon and create one very quickly. Now, Ivalua supports a very full on a catalog system. If you are looking to use catalog, not everyone uses catalog or they have that. Some people have punch out setup like Amazon Business, Menuton for stationery, for PPE equipment type of supplies. Punch out is like you go onto their website and then just create a requisition from there. For today, I'm just going to show you the catalog. So in the catalog, you can see all of these uh, different catalogs you can maintain. It could be facilities, IT. These are all your category structure, which you put in initially, and you have a catalog. If you wanted to buy, you can just simply buy it from an approved catalog that you have in the system. So you could say, okay, I want this and the laptop. I can add it to my card, and I can just simply check out and basically submit this requisition. This needs to be that easy, couple of seconds, and it can create a purchase requisition for you off the back of this. Now, if most of your spend is done through free text, you just put in what you need to buy, then we have an intake process as well. So you can see now it's actually created a purchase order automatically off the back of that because it was within the threshold. If it needed any authorization, it will go through the authorization workflow. But at this stage, it didn't need that. So let's have a look at a free text. In the free text, we have an intake process where people can actually go in and create an intake. I'm going to do that. If I look at any intakes that are in progress, if I take the draft status off, you'll see there are different intakes in the process. If I create a new one, and what I want to do is I want to buy something, and maybe it's new laptops, 2026 employee kit or something. I can put any extra description, and the same catalog I can see it from here. If you want to add the catalog from here, you can do that. Or if it's just a generic one, just add a non-catalog one. So you can say it's a laptop 17-inch screen or something, black color, whatever your preference is. How many you need? 5 of them. Estimated price, I don't want to go more than 1200. I want it by end of next month. And the spend category is computers. Okay, I just use that, add it, and just save it and submit it. And this will basically create an intake for me. Now, on the right side, you can see all of the process from the intake as a requester. You can see requisition created, any RFX been done, order been done, receipts been created, or invoice. Okay, if I go into that requisition, I can see it's actually gone to a workflow. It's sitting with my manager. The manager can approve it or reject it or forward it. Once I'm happy with that authorization, you can see now it's gone to the procurement department because there's no supplier on there. Now, as a procurement, I can actually select it and create an RFQ, a very quick code if I want to, or if I know who the supplier is at this stage, I'm just conscious of time, I'm going to just select a supplier, but you can do an RFQ process. So I'm going to just select that link, which I'm going to use. And at this stage, once I've saved it, I can then submit it. I can say I've approved this because I've done the RFQ process maybe. And you'll see that at the end of it, we'll send it to the requester to just sense check, okay, you're okay with that laptop from that supplier. If they're happy with this, then the system will actually convert that into a purchase order for you. And that purchase order is then sent to the supplier. And there's an optional step in there to actually confirm the order, but you don't need to, okay? If I close this, you'll see the status has changed. I didn't do any RFQ at this stage, but the order was converted, a requisition was converted into an order. If I need to create a receipt, I can easily create a receipt, or I can just simply create an invoice, okay, automatically. Now, when the invoice comes in, the AP team, if they're not using OCR process, they can simply look at the purchase order they received in the mail. They can just flip it into a purchase invoice. You can see there's nothing received yet, which is fine. You received an invoice. You can flip that into an invoice. You can say today's the invoice. We save this. If I want to, I can add a legal invoice, or in the test environment, I can just simply get the system to create a digital invoice. So I'm going to just submit this. Before I submit this, you can see that it's copied all of the information, even the accounting information based on the categories and all that. It knows what the journal needs to be created. And then you just submit this. And then it will be submitted to a workflow. Again, at this stage, you can conversate with the supplier if there are any issues. Same sort of controls are here. You can send them a message if there are any issues. Summary of the invoice that's attached. But the key is the workflow. So it went through, did the compliance, everything is compliant. But when I looked at the three-way matching process, uh, it didn't match with the receipt. So it matched with the purchase order values and everything, but it didn't match with the receipt. And that's why it's sitting with somebody to approve it with the business. So I can approve this if I want to. Once I've approved this, because there is still a discrepancy, even though I've approved it, it's still a two-way match you're actually accepting, it will go into a dispute. Here you can actually start conversation. If you want to raise a dispute, you can say, yeah, I want to raise a dispute, and it will be sent to the supplier. You can start communicating with the supplier, through the chat. And then once you've resolved that, then you hit a button of actually resolve that dispute. What this means is that it will hold the invoice until you resolve that dispute. If you resolve that dispute, then it will be okay to pay. Or if there are any other issues, let's say tax control or anything, it will go to that. By this stage, everything was fine. It's now okay to pay. If you look at the status on the top there, it's okay to pay. And what will happen is then an interface will kick in, which will then send this invoice into your finance system. In finance system, it'll then be paid. And once it's paid, now you can see at the moment is payment processing. Once it's paid, the status will change to paid at the end. If I look at the browse screen, you'll see different statuses. You'll see some which are okay to pay, some which are refused even, some are processing. You might also see some which are in paid status as well. So 1 minute left. I just want to show you the reporting. Ivalua comes with a lot of the standard reporting. You can see that if I look at procurement, if I look at invoice, there are many reports out there that we can use out of the box for all of the modules. And you can also subscribe to these reports, and which will basically send an email to you on a set frequency. I'd like to thank you at the end for joining the session, and we will be sharing more sessions in the future. Hope you join those as well. Thank you, everyone.